To quote the great Steven Tyler, same old song and dance. And right now, that looks like the road that Florida State football is on, with Chris Parson potentially decommitting in the next several days. That and more on today's edition of Locked On Seminoles.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to another edition of Locked On Seminoles. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Drake here, and today I'm joined by Mr. David Wise. Playboy, what's going on, my guy?
We're gonna keep it positive today, Drake. That was got some sad to talk about with Chris Parson, possibly.
Hey, we're no swearing, but we gotta keep it clean, Dave. We gotta keep it clean, man.
We got some sad stuffs to talk about today with Chris Parson, possibly, but try to keep it festive here. Coming off a nice long weekend. My birthday is a federal holiday, and I like that. So, yeah, let's keep those good vibes going.
But no, I mean, Dave, you're right, though. We do have a lot of good stuff to talk about today, but let's start off with basically what's the hot trending topic right now on Twitter, and that is the potential decommitment of one Chris Parson. Chris Parson, for those of you who don't know who, which would be surprising because if you listen to one of our podcasts, then you would know who Chris Parson is. Chris Parson is a 4-star, now QB by 247 Sports.
Yep.
Out of Tennessee. I think there's Ravenwood's the high school. And right now it appears to be that he overall is not being as favored by FSU. FSU in recent months has been recruiting Brock Glenn, Ricky Collins. I know they extended an offer to Emory Williams, who actually just committed to Miami a few minutes ago. So, Dave, what do you make right now? Actually, have this entire saga when it comes to Chris Parson and his potential decommitment from the program?
Oh, Drake, this doesn't feel good. This, like you said, it feels like just what's it called? Deja vu all over again, like they used to say on Sports Center.
Groundhog Day, bro.
Seen this story before. Yeah, Sam Howell, and then who was it after that?
The kid that
is
left
it Nico Marchiol?
No, the kid that left us at the altar, Luke Altmaier, when Max made that really bad joke.
That was pretty
bad. It was
all right. Look. Quarterback is the most important position on the field. There is zero debate about that. That can be had about that. We have recruited the quarterback position notoriously poorly, especially at the high school level, for the better part of a decade now. Not a full decade, but just more than a half decade now. And here it is. We're seeing the effects of that now. We're trying. We didn't do anything about it in the transfer portal. We didn't take a second quarterback behind Duffy. We complained plenty about that. Didn't mean to be negative, but it was negative. And Chris Parson, we put a lot of eggs in that basket. We figured, okay, he'll be the AJ Duffy of this class. Then Kenny Dillingham left. And, whether or not it was because of their relationship that he was going to come here, he was still committed. He still is committed here. And it's my hope that the staff will be able to convince a blue chip quarterback who I think absolutely can compete with AJ Duffy to be the starting quarterback here and be productive here, and lead us to a much better record than we've been experiencing. It appears that either because the staff has recruited other quarterbacks or because perhaps the relationship just isn't the same with Dillingham gone, that Chris Parson might be 1 foot out the door. And if he is, I do not feel good about Plan B, because Plan B hasn't really worked out all that well under this or the previous staff.
So the one question I think I had, because Max mentioned this a few weeks ago, and I think it's a really good point. Do you think that, because Chris Parson, I think, just received his 4-star, right? I think he's ranked right now, I guess, with around a 300 spot, basically, when it comes to
329, 16th quarterback in the country.
Okay, 329. And so do you think that the reason why, I guess, the fan base right now is basically, again, full on panic mode is because, what happened with Travis Hunter back in December, and also that we're putting a lot more weight into Chris Parson? Because if you look at his highlights and everything, I mean, I'm not saying he's not special, but he's not the elite of the league quarterback when it comes to his his tape jumping out at you when you're actually watching it. Do you think it's more that we're afraid of losing a QB commitment because basically it's like an over and over and over again kind of situation?
Well, first of all, the Travis Hunter thing was something I beat the drum about. Like everyone that decommits until the end of time, it's gonna.
I know you're the worst guy. I'm trying to tell you.
But no, I mean, again, we're talking about the most important position on the field. If we want to be good again, all we need to get back to a 9-win season is really just to plug in a top tier quarterback. I really think that, I mean, that covers up a lot of deficiencies throughout the roster, and it can with this roster too. You lose him, and suddenly you're talking about the pipeline being AJ Duffy, and then what? Like, I think we're probably going to be relying on AJ Duffy to start as a redshirt freshman next year. And after that, I don't know what the depth looks like, but I know it scares me. And I know it scares me that I would like to have a competition between blue chip prospects at the quarterback position. You can make 3 stars work, but historically at Florida State, the blue chips at the most important position have been the reason we've been as good as we have been.
Would this conversation be a moot point if we land either one of Brock Glenn or Rick Collins?
Maybe, I don't know. And you asked the question of, is it because Chris Parson is so good? Is that the reason people are freaking out? I don't know.
No. It's not even that. I'm saying, like, do you think we're overvalued? Let's say we're saying, like, oh my God, look at that pass, and like it was like like for most programs, like it's like a normal pass. Like, do you think that the fan base is valuing like the not his importance, but like basically his highlights, his tape overall?
Well, I can tell you this. It's almost like a lose-lose for Norvell, I feel like, because if Parson doesn't come here and either of those other two or any other quarterbacks in the class come in and they don't do well here, it's going to be just a death blow to Norvell, I think, his tenure here, because he will have failed to recruit that position just like Willie Taggart did. If somebody comes in and does okay, does well or okay.
To be fair, he's at least got Duffy.
I know. But if another quarterback comes in and does okay, I don't know if they're backup quality, even if they compete with Duffy, I think that will have been the expectation. I think it's like, yeah, you should be able to do that here at Florida State. We've had a Heisman winning quarterback in the last 10 years. How many schools can say that? So I don't know. I think we can probably replace his talent level. I don't think the reason people are so freaked out is because Chris Parson is the next coming of Jameis. But he is a blue chip quarterback. He did do well at the Elite 11 competitions. I like the way he plays. If you go watch his tape, I think he's exciting as a prospect at the quarterback position, but he's probably talent wise replaceable.
Yeah. And I think the one thing that I think that, how's the best way to put this? I think people are treating Chris Parson the same way that a lot of people treat Jordan Travis, where Jordan Travis is the best option on a bad team, best option in a QB room that, like you said before, only has Tay Rodemaker, AJ Duffy, and the GOAT, Geno English, TikTok sensation. So overall, I think with Chris Parson, so far is the only option that we've had, and he's been committed since 2021. So he's been committed for over a year.
Yeah,
I think more the fan base is kind of like, right now they felt that was the only option, and we've just now started to go after other options, and then Brock Glenn and then Rick Collins. I think the fan base right now is just mainly I think they're just more, I guess, not overvaluing, but it's more that they're just afraid of losing anything at this point, because right now we haven't had good news in a very long time. And quite frankly, I think if you look at the kids, Brock Glenn and Rick Collins, I think Rick Collins is at least on par with Chris Parson. Brock Glenn potentially might be actually the best one out of all three. And we went after Emmett Williams, who's is a little more polarizing overall. He just committed to Miami, so that leaves Jaden Rashada either going to Billy Napier over Florida, or most likely go over to Texas A&M or Texas ATM, as the Cover 3 podcast calls them. So to me, overall, like that's how probably it's going to be seen. It just seems like if he does decommit, it feels, even if this isn't the case, and even if it's not fair or warranted, it feels like one of those, of course, like another in a line of failures or curious decisions, like taking Rodemaker over Sims. Like, I'm not saying that Sims would have been better here than Rodemaker. It's just like the way things have worked out. It feels like, of course, everything that doesn't go right over the last 6 years is just, of course, right? Yeah, it's getting to the point where like, damn. Well, like at least at some point, something needs to turn around. But hopefully, right now we're seeing actually with the offensive line how that is turning around really quickly. But before we get to that, folks, we need to tell you about our friends over at BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to get all our latest sports action, whether it be NHL playoffs, Stanley Cup is wrapping up as we speak, Major League Baseball heading into the All-Star break, or if you're like myself, if you're a fan of the pugilistic arts, head on over to check out some UFC, And also NCAA win totals have dropped. Florida State opened last year at 5.5. This year they're at 6.5. Me personally, this is a team that can win 7 games. So I already got my locked in at 6.5. But folks, BetOnline.net, use promo code locked on. That's LOCKEDON. And you get a 100% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline.net, where the game starts. All right, Dave, we got the bad news out of the way. Basically, we should ask the fan base first. I should ask you first whether or not we should the bad news first or the good news second. So let's go over some good news. And right now, as we're recording this, I believe is the kid's name is, I'm hopefully can pronounce it correctly, Jaszton Turentine. He is the offensive tackle from the University of South Carolina, who is actually apparently right now at the Moore Center, apparently getting ready for classes. Now, we're not saying he's committed. We, unlike some other outlets on here, actually wait to get the official word from the kid himself. And we don't also have learned from our lessons from saying certain things and not doing the same thing twice. And also, when we have a tweet, we don't delete it for prosperity's sake. So, Dave, what can you tell me more about the offensive line impact of a Jaszton Turentine?
Well, Drake, I can tell you that if it hasn't been made clear enough to this point, keep in mind we're still recruiting offensive linemen. How many do we have? I mean, we must have a 3 deep now, right? Not that we would trust the third layer of that depth, but
all I know is we've added 4,000 pounds to the line, which is something that I think is an insane stat.
So Atkins had been making this line better each year since he's been here. Clearly, the roster coming into this year, just the staff was worried about it. Obviously, if you don't, this is a money year. We've talked about it. This is a sign to me that the staff recognizes it's a money year. If you don't bring in enough options at the offensive line position that you can figure out a 5 that can keep Jordan Travis upright and not injured, and figure out what the hell to do when an offensive lineman inevitably goes down, I think it shows the staff knows if they can't accomplish that, then it's going to be a really tough sell getting anybody excited next year, because a bad offensive line has that trickle down effect. And just adding another kid, especially from a Power 5, he's from South Carolina, right?
Yeah, he's from South Carolina.
Okay, just adding a kid like that, another big kid on the offensive line. I'm not going to project him to start. I mean, it would be stunning to me if he started, and if he did, that would probably say some bad things about the current state of the offensive line. But I will take every opportunity we can get for when an offensive lineman goes down and everybody's looking at each other like, oh, we're going to lose now, aren't we?
Yeah, and just for folks at home, his size, he is 6'6", 337 pounds. That is a lot of person. And I have a few friends of mine from law school who went to South Carolina, and they're South Carolina boosters. When I asked them, hey, what can you tell me about Jaszton Turentine? Do I have to call him Turnstile when he actually does start and doesn't play well? So from what they told me, he's like, is he going to start? I'm like, no, he should be a depth piece. And basically what told me is like, he's a solid, depth piece rotational wise, because basically he gasses out a little bit in the middle of games. Well, that was one problem at South Carolina. His size is really elite there. He's not the worst tackle I've ever seen, but someone, if you need him to dispel someone for a few plays, he's someone you want to turn to. And this is the same, friends of mine who told me about Jamie Robinson being probably an all ACC safety, and told me that Keir Thomas actually might have been the better of the two. So shout out to the Boner Dogs group chat, my degenerate gambling chat from law school days. So overall, Dave, I agree with you. Like now it feels like we legit have like not only a 2 deep, but a 3 deep. Yeah. I think we have almost like 20 players on scholarship actually at the offensive line spot.
Quarter of our scholarships. Yeah, almost.
And we brought in kids like a Julian Armella. We also brought in a Quayshawn Sapp. And I think not Jarrell Powers. I think he's the tight end. Jalen Early too, like coming into work there as well. And they seem to come in, I guess, for summer session, they seem to come in really good shape. So it leads me to believe that this offensive line is going to be really damn good. Like maybe not this year, but the year after. And just makes you kind of wonder how elite would this team have been if Alex Atkins right now would have been the offensive line coach in 2013. Sorry, after 2013.
Don't make us play that game. But what we do know is that it doesn't seem like Atkins has just gotten the best out of crap, and that's just always going to be the case. It seems like we're actually improving the quality of the line, not just for the upcoming year, but going forward. We're putting enough pieces in the system that we got to be able to churn out 5, capable ACC offensive linemen at this point.
And he's showing on the recruiting trail too. I think Roderick Kearney is actually on campus right now, unofficially visiting too. He's a 4-star kid that we're trying to land. Lucas Simmons is on an official visit this weekend. So I mean, right now, like I feel like a broken record at this point, but Alex Atkins is 100% the best recruiter and the best coach on staff right now. And thank the Lord that he's here because he's the brightest of bright spots right now on that staff. But Dave, I think we've done enough of that. I think that was a great
enough recruiting.
Enough recruiting. Yeah, I know we're not the recruiting podcast. Yeah, that's not our bag. And I try to bring as much as I can for you guys. But I think this, to quote the great Trey Rowland, basically, who cares about some 17-year-old big kid from the middle of Iowa? No one does. We don't on here, but we'd love for y'all to play for us here. But Dave, there was a fun little exercise that I saw in the comments section for a Mandatory Mailbag Monday. Obviously, it's Tuesday, so we're going to push it back to this today. I want to get your thoughts on this question from Lotto. And Lotto actually asked us that, what do you think the record of this team would be if we had this year's roster, so 2022's roster, with last season's schedule? So I kind of want to, get your thoughts on that.
Well, it's funny. So go back and look at last year's schedule. I think the roster, we lost an important, like, it's tough to overstate the importance of losing Jermaine Johnson. I think he's at a position where thankfully it's more replaceable than like losing your best quarterback. But I think the roster overall is better this year. So agreed. all else equal, I think we should just be in a better position roster wise. But if you go back and look at that schedule, that was a freaking hard schedule, man. Like, the last 5 games last year were Clemson, NC State, Miami, BC, Florida. All 5 of those games, BC we should beat. But I said it earlier a couple months ago, that's one of those sneaky losable games this year. It seems to be every year. Every time we play them, it's one of those sneaky losable games. But those were a 5-game stretch to end the season last year. You could have lost all 5 of those. We didn't, thankfully, and we won 2 out of those 5. This year, I would predict us to win 3 out of those 5. But one of those games is probably a coin flip. So you could end up between that UMass and Florida stretch, same exact record. Rest of that schedule, though, it's you and Max have this theory about Mac Brown, and like it's proven true every year. It's like phenomenal that he can't beat FSU.
I mean, there's certain things you can't. There's certain things you understand in sports that will just never come to fruition. Like Pedro Martinez is owned by the Yankees, hence the fourth. Basically, the Yankees are my daddy. Clayton Kershaw in the postseason is ineffective as a starter. That's also true. So then seeing Mac Brown is 0-9 now at this point against Florida State as a coach of any capacity. I mean, why would you bet against that? It just feels like, the guy is so no-blooded at heart. He bleeds garnet and gold that he will never allow FSU to lose in a game he's involved in. I mean, and that's something that, we wish from every alumni. But the way I kind of look at it overall, like at the schedule, I felt that there were certain things that you could point out with each loss, and we'll do that in the next segment, where if we had some players on this roster, the one that we have currently, and we bring over to last year's, that actually would change it overall and basically actually turn into a win, and we potentially might be flirting with a 9-win season. So Dave, like as I said before, like looking overall at this schedule, where do you think basically this roster would probably guarantee you a flip from a loss to a W?
Okay, so first of all, I think that Jacksonville State game, if we were to lose that again, I don't know, something bad, something unforgivably bad would happen. There's no chance we would lose that game. I don't. It depends how like the other teams develop too for me though, because like I firmly believe we should have beat Clemson last year. DJU was just, he helped us. He helped us win that game. And what happened at the end was unfortunate, but we could have beat Clemson. If DJU is not any better, Clemson is beatable again this year. We just there's a lot of things on that schedule last year that I think made that schedule harder than it is this year. I think the schedule this year is easier. If you took this year's roster and put it against last year's schedule, if you're asking me for an outright answer, I think that's what I'm doing. Yeah. I think we're 1 win better. I think it's a 6-6 team. I think we beat Jacksonville State. The rest of it, there's games that, and let's talk about them. There's games that could go either way, but I need to see something before I start predicting that this team would suddenly do things magically better, because nothing about the way this team has been coached over the last half decade has led me to believe things will just drastically and suddenly turn around for the best.
So I can point out to 2 games right now automatically. I mean, one of them you mentioned was Jacksonville State. Obviously, I think you have a better wide receiver, Winston Wright Jr. and Micah Pittman, and I think Max points to this a lot, where the pass to Keyshawn Helman drop basically was kind of a foreshadowing how the rest of the game will go. So that's to me an easy W.
Yep.
I
know what you're gonna say.
What you think?
You're
Florida?
Yeah.
Why is that?
It was a 3-point game. They were just not good last year at the quarterback position. We were the better team. They had the worst of the quarterbacks, and that's pretty incredible to me. And it was a 3-point game.
What was the most memorable miscue from that game?
Oh my God, I've blacked it out.
So, do you remember the Ontario Wilson drop punt?
Oh yeah, I sure do. Thanks for reminding me.
So with that drop punt, mainly because I say that will be that probably also, I'm pretty sure actually we were getting the ball back. And also that was after an interception by Anthony Richardson too. I think
that's right.
Like two series before. So Ontario Wilson isn't taking returning punts this year for the team. He's not even returning kicks either. That's a job done by Micah Pittman and Winston Wright Jr.
Trust him. Trust both of them doing that.
I trust both time. And I trust both of them to do it well also. Because, I mean, you've seen their highlights from Oregon and West Virginia, respectively.
Yep.
That's something that they're actually really damn good at. And to me, that's something that, you know what? Quite honestly, that probably changes the tide of the game, because also, as much as people like to say that, hey, they're coaching differently because they don't have Dan Mullen anymore, it also is really easy to kind of crush the spirit of a team when they don't have a coach. The season's almost over, and then you might as well at the end of the day be like, you know what, season's done, season's over. I can just go home with that overall. So that's 2 wins right there at 7-5.
Yep.
And to me, when it comes to wide receivers, I think Clemson's a team. That's a game when you have better weapons on the outside, you can steal that too. So I really legitimately think that this team is 3 wins better if they have last season's schedule. And like you said, that schedule last year was harder, primarily because you have the Notre Dame game, that stretch of Clemson on the road, then NC State, then Miami, then traveling to Boston College to play them in the refs, which is a New England staple, and then going back down to Florida. That's a tough stretch. And the schedule this season, I mean, I was in the minority, is a lot more favorable to us in comparison to this.
Yeah, there's a big positive takeaway from this, which is, I think we agree that no less than 1 game improvement. I tend to agree that, like, I'm not going to pick one in particular necessarily, but I think one of those other games you lost, you would have won. So if you're just talking about 1 year removed from last year, we take the exact same schedule and we're probably 2 games better. That means the coaches are making the team better. The quality of the talent and the potential turning into talent is happening correctly. So that means we're at least headed in the right direction. Definitely. And we've beat this horse dead, not as quickly as we want to, and as quickly as we probably should have been able to. But the fact that we're agreeing just this 1 year better, 1 year later roster would be 2 full games better. I think that speaks to the fact that at least there's some positivity to look to going into this year, just based on that alone.
And I think it's overall, because I think what the statistic is that I think FSU returns, I think 82% of its production from last year. And that is with losing a Jermaine Johnson, who was a 1st-round pick, losing a Keir Thomas, losing your number 1 rusher, Jaszton Corbin too, as well. And that, to me, I mean, the floor, I think, for this team, the roster overall is higher. Yeah. I think also, more importantly, it's a deeper team. We've already talked about how basically half the damn team is offensive linemen, which, listen, I'm fine with. We brought in 4 separate wide receiver transfers coming in, and Winston Wright Jr., Micah Pittman, Johnny Wilson, Deuce Spann. And also, we don't talk about him a lot, but we always forget to mention him. We brought in Tatum Bethune in the linebacking core. We brought in Greedy Vance for defensive depth too, as well. So it looks to me that overall, like, this team, the roster, and I know it's June and I know it's elite live season, but I truly feel confident that this team, roster-wise, is the best roster we've seen, top to bottom, average-wise, since maybe 2017.
Yeah, and Drake, another thing you didn't even mention is that Jordan Travis got better last year from the year before. Most important position on the field. We should be better at this year than last year and better than the year before. So that's important. And it's funny, if you go look at somebody who covers the ACC exclusively, basically, in David Hale, I'm not saying like you should put a ton of stock into his opinion on Florida State football, but that man loves this roster. Just go read his tweets. He's excited about the wide receiver
I think he calls himself out. I was like, why do I love this roster so much?
I know. And you know what? I'm sure he didn't just wake up and say, I like Florida State. Like, obviously he goes through the rosters. There is a lot to like about this roster. There's reason to believe the staff has a lot more to work with and is going to be able to do a better job with it. And the product on the field will improve. Once that happens, you can recruit better. It's a cycle. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Can't recruit without results. Can't result without recruits. Something like that.
Circular reasoning.
Right. And this year should be better just based on the fact that the roster is better than last year and that we would have been better this coming year against last year's schedule because of that. So I'm excited about that, man. There's reason to be excited about that. This isn't like a doom and gloom fest. We're going to make a bowl game this year. We're going to make a bowl game this year. If I have to mark these words and come back to this, we're going to make a bowl game this year. I think it's going to be all right.
I think we're making a bowl game this year, and I think also that the team is good enough roster-wise, like you were saying before, to win at the bare minimum 7 games. Yeah. I think that Mike Norvell and company have the tools at their disposal to basically, move forward. And basically, he won 3 in his first season. He won 5 last year. If he wins 7, at least the man's consistent with the 2-win improvement. That means that we will be 9-3 the year after, and then 11-1 the year after that. So, hey, that'd be dope.
Drake, with everything that we've said, we see this hashtag a lot. We see it said a lot in our comments, a lot on Twitter.
Don't you dare.
Are you confident, just for one more year at least, that Mike got us?
This is how you know it's the offseason. I am confident that hashtag Mike got us, because I think that he's constructed a roster that it's now his team. And we saw with his first year, didn't have his players, played poorly. Last year, you saw glimpses of, improvement, but you also saw some of the bad plays. This year, it's majority of his doing in his own roster. So, yeah, hashtag Mike got us. And folks, we got y'all Monday through Friday or Tuesday through Thursday, depending on if it's over the summer during the offseason. We have y'all. Thank you so much for being Locked On Seminoles, your first listen each and every single day. As always, folks, 5-star reviews, either on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast from. And also, Dave, let them know about YouTube.
No. Okay. So hit the little bell at the top, subscribe to the channel, and make sure your notifications are turned on or something like that. And give us a follow. Is that a thing?
This isn't Facebook, you old.
I'm regressing.
You are really regressing because you don't want to do it anymore, but I'm going to keep making you do it until you get this right. And also like this video, and also always put comments down below so we can get them for our mandatory Mailbag Monday. And also, how about with themes of the episode, as you can see with our question with Lotto. Now, with that being said, this was Drake, that was David, and we'll see y'all next time on Locked On Seminoles. Take care, everybody.